During his presidency, foreign organizations gave millions to Trump's businesses, according to a House report. According to a new study released on Thursday by Democrats on the House Oversight Committee, throughout his presidency, former President Donald Trump's businesses received millions of dollars from foreign entities situated in 20 different nations. Representative Jamie Raskin, the top Democrat on the Oversight Committee, released the report and provided documents from Trump's former accounting firm that demonstrate that 20 governments, including Saudi Arabia and China, paid at least $7.8 million to Trump-affiliated businesses during his presidency, including Trump Towers in New York and Trump International Hotels in Washington, D.C., and Las Vegas. House Democrats have released a 156-page study titled, "White House for Sale." In the introduction to the report, Raskin wrote, "By elevating his personal financial interests and the policy priorities of corrupt foreign powers over the American public interest, former President Trump violated both the clear commands of the Constitution and the careful precedents set and observed by every previous commander-in-chief." The study claims that Saudi Arabia most certainly paid Trump-owned business at least $615,422 during Trump's first term in office, based on limited records that the committee was able to collect. While the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia was making these payments, President Trump chose Saudi Arabia as the destination of his first overseas trip, a choice that was unprecedented among U.S. presidents, according to the study. The Foreign Emoluments Clause of the Constitution, which prohibits the president and other federal officials from accepting gifts or cash from foreign countries without congressional approval, is allegedly broken by the payments, according to the report. The U.S. Supreme Court rejected claims in 2021 that claimed Trump was making money off of his presidency, citing his resignation from office as justification. Through entities he owned and controlled, President Trump accepted, at a minimum, millions of dollars in foreign emoluments in violation of the United States Constitution, the report states. The documents obtained from former President Trump's accounting firm demonstrate that 4 Trump-owned properties together collected, at the least, millions of dollars in payments from foreign governments and officials that violated the Constitution's prohibition on emoluments, of any kind whatever, from foreign governments. According to a congressional investigation released on Thursday, foreign countries, particularly China, gave former U.S. President Donald Trump's businesses at least $7.8 million during his tenure in office. Democrats on the House Oversight Committee said that during Trump's presidency, officials from over 20 countries contributed money to his hotel and real estate ventures, including representatives from Saudi Arabia, India, Turkey, and the Democratic Republic of the Congo. According to the writers, such payments from foreign governments went against a constitutional prohibition on foreign emoluments. As president, Donald Trump accepted more than $7.8 million in payments from foreign states and their leaders, including some of the world's most unsavory regimes, according to the report titled, "White House for Sale." We know about only some of the payments that passed into former President Trump's hands during just 2 years of his presidency from just 20 of the more than 190 nations in the world through just 4 of his more than 500 businesses. Prohibited emoluments. Regarding China, the study said that Beijing, along with companies such as ICBC Bank and Hainan Airlines, expended $5.5 million at properties owned by Trump. Former President Trump violated the Constitution when the businesses he owned accepted these emoluments paid by Beijing, without the consent of Congress, according to the study. The $5.5 million number is based solely on restricted disclosures by Trump's accountants Mazars and filings with the U.S. financial regulator, the SEC, according to the authors, who also speculate that the actual sum may be higher. A Chinese diplomatic delegation spent $19,391 at the Trump International Hotel in Washington on August 27, 2017. The study further states that Saudi Arabia paid at least $615,422 in prohibited emoluments to former President Trump's businesses over the course of his term in office from just the Trump World Tower and the March 2018 stay at the Trump International Hotel in Washington, D.C. Former President Trump has also boasted about the continued willingness of the Saudis to do business on terms highly favorable to him, according to the report. In 2022, a private investment group purchased Trump's hotel in Washington, D.C., and it was relaunched under the upscale Waldorf Astoria brand. The front-runner for the Republican presidential nomination in 2024, Donald Trump, is also being sued for civil fraud in New York due to allegations that he exaggerated the value of his real estate company's assets. His trials are scheduled to take place in Florida in May on allegations of mishandling top-secret government papers and in Washington in March for allegedly plotting to rig the 2020 election results. In addition, the twice-impeached former president is charged with racketeering in Georgia for allegedly planning to manipulate the outcome of the state's election following his loss to Democrat Joe Biden in 2020. Documents reveal that during Trump's administration, China spent more than $5.5 million at his properties. According to financial documents cited in a report released on Thursday by House Democrats, the Chinese government and its state-controlled entities spent over $5.5 million at properties owned by Donald Trump during his administration. This amounts to the largest total of payments made by any one foreign country to date. A state-owned Chinese bank, a state-owned Chinese air transit company, and the Chinese embassy in the U.S. all contributed millions of dollars to these transfers. The U.S. Justice Department has accused the Chinese bank of aiding North Korea in evading sanctions. Democrats on the House Oversight Committee were able to secure accounting papers from Trump's previous accounting company, Mazars USA. According to the research, China is among the 20 nations that have paid a minimum of $7.8 million to Trump-owned companies and assets during his time in the White House, including his hotels in Washington, D.C., New York, and Las Vegas. Although not a comprehensive account of all foreign payments made to Trump's businesses while he was in the White House, the documents provide more proof of the unusual practice of foreign governments making direct financial transactions with enterprises held by a sitting president. Trump's attorney stated at the time that the former president intended to give the U.S. Treasury Department any overseas earnings from his hotels. The stated donations made by the Trump Organization in 2017 and 2018, however, are far less than the projected foreign payments made to its properties. Before taking office, Trump refused to give up his corporate properties and assets, which allowed him to continue making money from his numerous ventures with no accountability. Democrats claim that the new accounting records cast new light on any attempts to sway Trump during his presidency through his businesses. Committee Democrats cite Trump's refusal to put penalties on the Industrial and Commercial Bank of China, ICBC, a state-owned organization that rented space at Trump Tower in New York, as one illustration. The Chinese bank paid $1.9 million in base rent, according to a 2012 Securities and Exchange Commission filing, and records provided by Mazars attest to the bank's occupancy in Trump Tower through at least 2019. The bank was charged by the Justice Department in 2016 of working with a North Korean bank to get around U.S. sanctions. However, House Oversight Committee Democrats wrote in a report summarizing the contents of the Mazars USA records that Trump did not sanction ICBC after taking office, despite calls from Republican members of Congress to apply maximum financial and diplomatic pressure by targeting more Chinese banks that do business with North Korea. Chinese embassy spokeswoman Lu Pengyu told CNN that China adheres to the principle of non-interference in internal affairs and does not comment on issues related to U.S. domestic politics, in response to a question concerning China's payments to Trump-owned properties. At the same time, I want to emphasize that Chinese businesses must always operate abroad in compliance with local laws and regulations, according to the Chinese government. The U.S. and China can benefit from each other's commercial and economic partnership. China rejects the U.S.'s politicization of trade and economic relations with China, Pengyu continued. According to the Trump Organization, during Trump's administration, it gave the U.S. Treasury more than $450,000 in anticipated gains from favoritism by foreign governments. During Trump's administration, the corporation refrained from making any new international business ventures and instead tracked all foreign government transactions across its whole portfolio. Regardless of any economic ties, Eric Trump said in a statement that the former president was strong on China. No president in American history has been more tough on China than Donald Trump. A president who has imposed tariffs worth billions and billions of dollars on their goods and services, said Eric Trump. Democrats further contend that Trump regularly broke the U.S. Constitution's emoluments clause, which forbids a president from accepting a profit or emolument from a king, prince, or foreign state without Congress's approval. This is demonstrated by the Mazars records. Yet, legislation to enforce the emoluments clause has stalled in Congress, despite moral concerns expressed about Trump's disregard for constitutional principles upheld by his predecessors. After years of litigation that culminated in a 2022 settlement, the committee, which has been looking into Trump's businesses and his lease of the old post office in Washington, D.C., from the U.S. government, was given access to the documents. There are numerous documents in the subset that were made public on Thursday that were not previously available. These nations expended frequently extravagantly on flats and lodging at Donald Trump's properties, directly benefiting President Trump as he made international policy choices linked to their agendas that have significant implications for the United States, Democrats stated in their analysis. For instance, during Trump's presidency, Saudi Arabia spent around $600,000 at buildings he controlled, and in May 2017, when it inked a huge arms deal with the Trump government, it was making substantial payments. The contentious $100 billion arms deal was approved by the Trump administration despite concerns from both political parties over civilian losses because of Saudi Arabia's military action in Yemen. The report, authored by House Democrats, also emphasized remarks made by Trump about Saudi Arabia during a 2015 campaign event. "I get along well with all of them, Saudi Arabia. I sell apartments to them. They invest between $40 and $50 million. Am I supposed to dislike them?" he asked again. "They really appeal to me," Trump stated at the time. Some of the financial data were previously made public by committee Democrats, but they only covered a small portion of the foreign payments made to Trump-owned companies while he was president. Trump World Tower's foreign spending. The Trump World Tower apartment complex is located across the street from the UN, and a significant portion of the foreign spending revealed in the most recent report comes from leases or common charge payments made by nations for flats their diplomatic missions either rent or own. Even while several of the nations purchased real estate years before Trump entered the presidential race, they kept up their payments to the Trump Organization. The Trump Organization received an estimated $1.7 million in charges and fees from Saudi Arabia, India, Qatar, Kuwait, Afghanistan, and a petroleum business connected to the Chinese government, all of which either owned or rented units at Trump World Tower, according to House Democrats. The amount is derived from documents that the Democrats obtained from Mazars for the year 2018, the sole year that Mazars provided the committee with records, and is then extrapolated under the supposition that the charges won't change throughout Trump's term. The largest donation to the UN property came from Saudi Arabia, which owns the apartment building's 45th floor. Democrats calculate that, of the $615,422 in emoluments paid by the Saudi government to Trump, $537,080 were paid. The remaining funds were paid to Trump's Washington, D.C. hotel. The assets that Qatar possessed during Trump's presidency are estimated to have cost $465,744. India paid at least $264,184. Afghanistan paid an estimated $153,208 for its unit. And Kuwait paid Trump's firm $152,664 for the Trump World Tower. According to Mazars documents, Kuwait also paid the Washington Hotel over $150,000 for National Day celebrations hosted by its embassy in 2017 and 2018. In 2019, the Democrats claimed not to have received any documentation from Mazars on the expense of the National Day event, which was once again hosted at the hotel. According to press announcements from the Kuwaiti embassy, Democrats claimed that representatives of the Trump administration were present at the events.